Happy day and welcome to another episode of Coffee with the Candidates. We're here at the Leo Palace Resort Country Club. Today we're going to talk to a pair of candidates, one looking to break onto the scene and another incumbent looking to retain his seat. When we come back, of course, we're going to be talking to senatorial candidate Amanda Francel-Blas. Stay with us. And welcome back to Coffee with the Candidates. Of course, joining me is Amanda Francel-Blas. Amanda, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Tim.
And thanks for joining us. And I guess the first question I want to ask, as we usually ask, is why are you running for office?
Sure. First of all, as he mentioned, my name is Amanda Francel-Blas, and I am proud to be your youngest candidate this year. And the reason why I'm running is simple. I think it's time to bring new opportunities and new change to our island. And I think that a voice from the new generation is definitely something that is needed in our legislature.
All right, well, something the new generation has been very vocal about, it's a very controversial issue, it's been the senatorial pay raises, and that's where we're going to start today. Can you give us your opinion on the controversial senatorial pay raise in general, the issue that's been floating around?
Sure. First of all, if I'm elected, by all means, take my pay raise away. I don't believe you need a pay raise or a pay increase, definitely, to make you want to serve your island. Public service requires some sort of sacrifice, whether it's your time, your income, and I think that's something we need to consider, and everyone who takes a seat in the legislature needs to consider.
Well, if there would be a petition to repeal the current annual salary of the senators, well, of course, what would be your position? Why? I mean, you know, you just briefly said you would take away yours.
Yes, I would support any public petition, definitely. The public obviously are the ones who put us into this seat, so I think it's definitely important we consider any public petition.
And why is a public petition important?
Like I said, it's because, well, we definitely are elected by the people of Guam. So who are we to ignore the people of Guam when it comes to these decisions as well?
Along those same lines, should the people be given the right to repeal the current salary via a plebiscite? Yes
Absolutely.
Or no, and why?
Absolutely. I think that the people of Guam should be able to make any decision via plebiscite. Look at how we're looking at the idea of decolonization. It's important that we do look at plebiscites as a way for the people of Guam to voice their concerns on major issues, whether it's the pay raise or whether it's decolonization. I think it's important that the people of Guam have that option, and they do have that right to express their opinion and to let us know what they think is best for our island.
Okay. Switching just sort of another major topic that's been on is medicinal marijuana. Are you for or against the implementation of medicinal marijuana on Guam?
I think the people have clearly spoken. In 2014, the island of Guam decided that we are ready to move forward with medicinal marijuana. I think the main issue right now is to decide on the rules and regulations. That's the main focus now, I believe.
So guidelines, correct?
Yes, correct.
Yeah. So if you were to author those guidelines, let's just say that you were the chief author of the guidelines, what would those be to you? How would you put those out?
I definitely think that it's important that we do have stringent rules and regulations, because it will be sort of a pharmacy because it's for medicinal purposes. I think it's important that we have certain testing and rules and regulations in place in that matter. And I do think it's important that before we even discuss recreational marijuana, which has come up every once in a while, that we do have everything set for medicinal marijuana first. I think that's a major important part of that as well, is before we even move forward at looking at recreational marijuana, we do make sure that we have medicinal marijuana regulations in place, see how it works for Guam before moving forward into something new too.
Okay, well, starting a new topic, I suppose, it's the Guam, we're going to go into the education a little bit. With the current status of Guam's educational system, what would your list of priorities be to address regarding the educational system if you are elected?
Tim, I'm glad you asked that question. A major part of my platform actually involves providing a new opportunity to our island. As you know, we have 2 amazing charter schools on Guam, and there's talk of another one coming up. And part of my vision of Guam is seeing a new charter school focused on hospitality. Tourism is Guam's major industry. Month after month, we celebrate record-breaking numbers of visitors coming into our island. I think it's time that we have a school specifically set for our high schoolers, maybe even middle schoolers if it allows, that prepares them to take on these high-paying jobs and these careers in the hospitality industry. I want to definitely prepare the next generations to have careers, and especially in our island's most thriving industry, tourism.
Okay, well, it's switching also to health. Every year we get the news that GMH is in debt, millions of dollars. Where do you think people should look to avoid these sort of reoccurring themes when it comes to GMH? I mean, how would you solve
Okay.
crisis?
So first of all, I do want to mention I've spent a lot of time at GMH in the last couple of weeks. My godfather was actually admitted, and so I do want to say thank you to the hardworking men and women of GMH. I see how much they invest not only their time but their hearts into caring for the people of Guam, and I appreciate that a lot. Second thing is, obviously, these problems didn't happen overnight. A lot of times we have people who just put blame and blame. They want to play the blame game and tell everybody that, oh, this person is responsible for this, but it didn't happen overnight. I think it's just time that we address it. There's a couple of options on the table. They're all things we need to look at. And I think definitely it's important that we do invest into our island's only public hospital. This is a public hospital that will not turn anyone away. And because of that, we need to make sure that the quality of our health care in Guam is for the best for the people.
Okay. Switching to deportation for a second. What is your stand on the deportation of convicts by the current administration?
I completely understand where the governor is coming from. I understand that it's important for the safety of our people. It's a public safety issue. Obviously, there has been controversy with it, and I think that it just goes back to public safety. It's when these people, if they finish their time, do they go back out to the public, to our communities? What's going to happen next? Will there be more crimes? I think it's all just linked to the center issue of public safety. That's an important thing to consider.
Do you think the criminals should finish their sentences? I mean, because I know a lot of the times it's a commuted sentence that is the real trigger for some of this stuff. Do you think that they should can finish their sentence? Yes. If yes, why? If no, why as well?
I think that during your sentence, the main part is making sure that you are rehabilitated, that you are paying for your crimes. But a lot of times, criminals definitely do not actually rehabilitate themselves. A lot of the ones that have been commuted so far haven't taken advantage of educational opportunities or any other training opportunities available in the prison. And because of that, I think that if they do serve their time and do go out, I think it could be a repeat cycle. And so I think it's important that we do what's best for public safety. And if that means having to put them to have them no longer fill out the sentence and ensure they won't be back in our community, I think that's what needs to be done for the best of the public safety of everyone who calls Guam home.
Do you agree with the statement of the AG's office that the governor has no deportation powers, and why?
Well, I'm definitely not going to challenge the Attorney General, of course. But like I said, it all goes back to public safety. That's the importance. We are making sure that Guam is a better place and a safer place for everybody, everyone who calls Guam home.
Okay. Another controversial topic is in the recent news there's been child sexual abuse. And what is your opinion on how the church is handling the sexual abuses that have been filed so far, the cases?
Full disclosure, I am a practicing Catholic, and for me the hardest part is seeing the division that is happening among the Catholic Church over this. I do believe, though, that it is important that the victims of sexual assault do get justice and do have closure. But at the same time, I also do acknowledge that there's a lot of fight, a lot of issues. I'm talking about money and loss. But as I mentioned, the importance is making sure that these victims understand that we are here for them and that we hear their pain and that we're here for them and that they do receive closure.
Do you agree on allowing civil litigation on past child sex abuses? So basically the civil statute of limitations bill that was recently passed.
I think there should be a criminal component, in all honesty. I think that the individual who did the crime should pay for it. That's what I think is necessary. I think that's definitely a part that could be added, that should be added, because why are they not paying as an individual?
But do you think civil statute of limitations is...
I think civil, I understand where it's coming from, and I believe that civil, while it does do some sort of closure, I still think a criminal component definitely needs to be there.
Okay. Would you support another minimum wage increase? Yes or no, and why?
I definitely promote any idea that will help the people of Guam better care for themselves. However, I do worry because there hasn't been an economic statement released that will tell us how it will affect, especially the small and local businesses on Guam. And I think a lot of times when we talk about minimum wage, we only focus on jobs. We don't focus on careers. We don't focus on overall opportunities. And I think that's something we also need to look at, not just the jobs and minimum wage. We need to look at how we can create careers, which is why in my vision for Guam, I promote the expansion of the number of industries on Guam. That means looking at our local farmers, our local fishermen, to help promote a agriculture and aquaculture industry that will really help provide these new opportunities and careers for Guam.
Okay, so this, and also we're talking a little bit about the homeless issue on Guam, or just in general.
Sure.
Sort of now, I was wondering if you had thoughts on that.
Oh, yes, I definitely do. We do have a homeless count every year, and a couple of years back, I actually got I had the chance to actually be a part of it, especially in Agana. And I'm sure most people who call Guam home know that there is a significant number of homeless. And when you talk to them about it, a few of them, their issue is they can't find jobs. That's what leads to the homelessness. And that goes back to my vision of Guam. How can we bring more jobs, more opportunities for people? And that means by, one, better preparing them. That means providing new opportunities, such as the charter school for tourism and hospitality, or two, expanding the number of industries. Right now, we only focus on tourism and military spending. Can you imagine the job opportunities if we bring in agriculture and aquaculture as an industry? Can you imagine the jobs and the opportunities for our island and the income and revenue that will come with it? So there's amazing potential for that, and I think that will really aid us in addressing our homeless population on Guam.
Okay, well, let me give you the floor you have about 2 minutes. Why should people vote for you? And if you had a final message to tell the people of Guam.
Sure. I believe the people of Guam should vote for me because I believe it's time for a change. Change isn't always easy to accept, but sometimes it's necessary. And I think right now it definitely is necessary. I'm here to provide new opportunities for Guam. And a lot of times those opportunities can come from somebody who hasn't been in the legislature for years. Somebody new, a fresh voice, a fresh face, a fresh idealistic look on the future of Guam. And once again, my name is Amanda Francel Blas, familia Mbuchi and Darrow, and I'm humbly asking for your vote, number 15 on the Republican side.
All right, well, thanks, Amanda. I wanted to say thank you for joining us today.
No
and
problem.
When we come back,
It's an
of
honor.
course, we'll be talking with Vice Speaker BJ Cruz. Stay with us. Hello and welcome back to the Leo Palace Resort Country Club. On this episode of Coffee with the Candidates, as I've said before, we are joined by Vice Speaker BJ Cruz. Vice Speaker, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you very much for the invitation.
Absolutely. And we'll just start off with, the first question we always start off with is, why are you running for office again?
It's a very good question, actually, but if I could just take a few seconds to thank the people of Guam. They've been very good to me over the last, we won't say how many decades, but they've always left their trust in me, either as a family court judge or Chief Justice of the Supreme Court or now as a senator. And every day I work to try to make sure that I live up to that trust that they bestowed upon me. And so I believe that we should have a budget that makes sense, not something that's made up. I believe that no one should work and live in poverty. And I believe that government should take care of the powerful and the powerless. I mean, both of them. And so in trying to do that, I have over the last term introduced a budget, worked across the aisle, actually two years, worked across the aisle to get a balanced budget passed that reduced the cap, reduced the spending, reduced the deficit, or at least we attempted to reduce the deficit from our side, and lower the debt ceiling. I've introduced legislation to increase the minimum wage, and just recently overrode the bill to provide probably the most comprehensive retirement plan in the last several decades. And that's the kind of work that I want to do. My passion really is to take care of children. And if you've gone over my last 40 years in government service, it has been devoted to making sure that our children are protected from all kinds of predators and provided with the tools from which to build a better and more successful life for themselves and their families.
Okay. Well, I guess you can switch gears a little bit and talk a little about the senatorial pay raises. That's the first question that I have for you, and just your opinion on that controversy has been swirling around for the past year.
Well, yes, and actually, being real truthful about it, when it was presented to us, I was not opposed to seeing the raises for all the rest of the government employees. I did not, at the time, I believed that the organic tap prevented the legislature from increasing its own salary. I have since been told that my reading was too narrow and too conservative, that it only prevents the legislature from creating positions and increasing salaries from which we could move into when we leave the legislature, but there is no prohibition like the 26th Amendment in the United States that prohibits the Congress from increasing its own salary. So when we passed the bill, I did so figuring that we wouldn't get an increase, but the rest of the employees, the elected officials and the directors, I believe deserved to get their raises, and I was not opposed to it. And I was not opposed to it because at the time the administration came and insisted that we were in good financial health. I asked the director of BBMR at the time, your late great uncle, and he insisted, that everything was fine, that we had lots of money. I since come to find out that we had a lot of money at that time because we had a huge reconciliation from the federal government in Section 30, and so we had about $70 million extra that we had at that time, but has since been depleted, and so consequently we're in this dire situation that we're in now. I have since that time consistently voted to either repeal or override the vetoes of any attempt to repeal and reinstate the old salary.
Okay. So if there were a petition to repeal your current annual salary of the senators, your position would be?
I would not object to that.
Okay. Moving on to medicinal marijuana, are you for or against the implementation of medicinal marijuana on Guam?
I saw someone who I love very dearly pass away, and the only thing that helped him eat and live a half-decent life the last year of his life was medicinal marijuana in California. And if we can assure that it is safe, it's affordable, and it is something that the patient and their doctor agree is in the best interest of the patient, I don't believe that the state should step in the way. And we should encourage that and allow them to have the best medical care they can get. And if it's medicinal marijuana, then so be it.
Well, expanding a little bit on the three components that you said, if you were to author guidelines to the medicinal marijuana program, what would some of those guidelines be?
Well, one, I want to make sure that it's affordable. Mm-hmm. And two, there's got to be the testing to make sure that it's safe. And three, I want to make sure that it is not profit generating. I mean, I'm sure there's going to be some profit. But the thing is that I don't want it to be the thing that, everybody was talking about. We're going to make $50, $60, $90 million, and it's going to be. My thing is I want to provide individuals who are suffering from diseases that can only be alleviated or assisted by medicinal marijuana to be provided with the safest and the most affordable health care that they possibly can. And if that's it, then I would support those kinds of regulations.
Okay. With the current state of Guam's educational system, do you have a list of priorities that you want to address should you be reelected?
Well, over the last couple of years since I've taken over the Appropriations Committee, I've attempted and successfully gotten probably the two largest appropriation to the Guam Department of Education. Though the legislature may have appropriated that sum, you've seen that despite the criticism about my cutting back the budget, the administration hasn't released the funds to them. I mean, GDOE ended up with, $6 million short. The university is about 20, and GCC is 11. We fulfilled our responsibility to the legislature. We gave them the money that they asked for. Now it's up to the administration to release the cash that they need for their operations. And we also have to do whatever we can to make sure that the operations is as efficient as it possibly can be. And that means making sure that you comply with the requirements of the third-party custodian so we can finally get rid of that $3 to $4 million expense every year to have the third-party custodian. And as you got me in trouble yesterday, trying to find ways that we can save some money. And if there is money like rent that doesn't need to be paid out to because you don't have the buildings and you're not being able to use it. Wherever we can save money, if we can turn that around for the operations to take care of the children, I'm happy.
Well, speaking of money, every year we hear that GMH is in millions of dollars in debt. Where's one thing that you would look into to avoid this reoccurrence, or that you have looked into and would like to continue?
A few years ago, we passed the Transparency Act of the GMH, and they were supposed to be posting every month a transparency report on their website. I discovered that since the governor took over a year ago, January, they stopped issuing the transparency report, or at least publishing it on the web. I demanded, when we were passing their request for $30 million, $45 million loan, that they come clean with that. And today I was just at a funeral, and the CFO came up to me and told me that they were finally going to be transmitting to me the transparency report of the hospital, because I don't believe that anybody, you and everybody else that you know, would not be able to go to a bank and borrow money without having proved to the bank what your net worth is, how you're working, and that you're being responsible with the money that you've been provided.
Okay, I guess just my last question is to kind of give you a chance to address the audience is, well, why should people vote for you again?
Well, I hope that I've lived up to the trust that they've bestowed upon me over the last 40 years. I've tried, as the appropriations chair, to make sure that our budgets make sense. I have tried to look out for the powerless by making sure that we increase the minimum wage. I did that in 2007 when I first came to the legislature. I did this 3 years ago, and I'm hoping that we can finish it off this year with taking care of them. And I also believe that the legislature serves a great purpose in being a check and balance on the administration. And I hope that over the last couple of years, or especially this last term, that I have proven to the people of Guam that I have been a check on the executive branch. And if they want to have that check and balance to continue, then I ask them for one vote to continue to do this service for them.
All right, well, thank you, Vice Speaker, for joining us, as always. And that's it for this episode of Coffee with the Candidates. Be sure to check us next time.